If you walk into a dealership today and look at a brand new electric vehicle, the entire pitch is built around this vision of a completely frictionless future.
Oh, absolutely. It's all about that seamless experience.
Right. You sit in the driver's seat, the cabin smells like, premium synthetic leather. There's this pristine, glowing touchscreen the size of a laptop, and the salesperson is just selling you the promise of effortless, silent, eco-friendly gliding down the highway.
It feels clean. It feels like the messy problems of automotive travel have finally been solved by, like, Silicon Valley engineering.
Exactly. But take that shiny futuristic spaceship out of the showroom and drop it into the gritty, unpredictable reality of an actual physical city, and, well, that illusion shatters pretty quickly.
Yeah, the contrast between the software interface and the physical street is jarring. I mean, you go from feeling completely in control of this cutting-edge technology to suddenly realizing you are entirely tethered to an external infrastructure.
Which is
An infrastructure that is, frankly, still in its awkward teenage years. Your sophisticated computer on wheels is only as good as the plug you can find at the end of the day.
Okay, let's unpack this.
All right.
Because we have a stack of source materials today that really strips away that dealership marketing and exposes the hidden ground-level reality of the EV landscape.
Yeah, this is a fascinating set of documents.
We are doing a deep dive into some informational and promotional materials from a service called Sacramento Mobile EV Charging.com. And, while these are technically business documents, they act as an incredibly sharp sociological diagnostic tool for us.
Right, they really highlight what drivers are actually dealing with out there.
Yeah, they map out a reality filled with, like, charging deserts, predatory towing dynamics, and just the unfiltered panic of sitting in a dead vehicle at 2 in the morning.
And our mission today isn't to evaluate this specific company's business model or, their pricing structure.
No, not all.
We are synthesizing what their operational focus actually reveals about the broader systemic gaps in our current EV transition. We're analyzing the specific symptoms they treat to understand the underlying disease, essentially.
Because the infrastructure failures they're building a business around in Sacramento, those are the exact same systemic failures happening in every major metropolitan area right now.
Exactly. So let's start with what the sources describe as the daily grinding reality for drivers. They don't mince words here.
They really don't.
They literally call Sacramento's public charging infrastructure a joke. And anyone driving an EV knows that relying on your dashboard's charging map is, well, it's like relying on a pacemaker that only connects to Wi-Fi half the time.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is a bleak comparison, but it's true. It's like playing a frustrating game of a treasure hunt where the chest is already empty when you get there. You navigate to a station, your battery is bleeding down to 3%, you pull in, and the hardware is simply non-functional.
Right, the screen's blank or the credit card reader is smashed.
Or you arrive to find the chargers are technically functional, but you're facing a notorious bottleneck. There might be a line of 5 other anxious drivers waiting for 2 working plugs.
Yeah, and the sources also heavily emphasize the chronic issue of ice-eing.
Oh, ice-eing, right. So you use your vehicle's smart map. It promises an oasis of power a mile away. You get there, and a massive, gas-guzzling pickup truck is parked diagonally across the EV spots, completely blocking the cables.
That's infuriating.
The digital dashboard promised a solution, but the physical world delivered a dead end. But, I want to push back on the severity of this narrative for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's look at this historically. Isn't this just the standard friction of early adoption? Like, if we transported ourselves back to 1910, gas stations weren't on every corner either.
That's a fair point.
People were buying gasoline in glass bottles at the local pharmacy. So are we overreacting to an infrastructure lag? Treating a temporary growing pain as a permanent crisis? Like, does this map versus reality discrepancy fundamentally break the promise of EV mobility for the average user? Does it just make it feel like playing the lottery with your battery?
Well, what's fascinating here is how the source material doesn't treat this as a temporary phase. It treats it as a structural vulnerability that requires a permanent alternative solution.
Interesting.
Yeah, they position mobile charging as the ultimate backup when public infrastructure completely fails. They are the direct antidote to that exact chronic anxiety.
Because they bypass the grid entirely.
Right. The century-old paradigm of the gas station dictates that the vehicle must travel to the power source. But when the stationary infrastructure fails, as often as these sources claim, that entire model collapses for the EV driver.
So mobile charging flips the paradigm.
Exactly. They advertise themselves as the charger that always works,
Yeah.
precisely because they bring the infrastructure to you. They bring it to the driver,
Yeah.
effectively creating a decentralized, on-demand power grid.
You know, that shift from a stationary destination to an on-demand service, it changes the entire psychology of a breakdown.
It really does.
Because a dead battery in your own driveway on a Saturday morning is just, well, it's a scheduling annoyance. You
Yeah.
plug it into your wall, you go back inside, you drink your coffee.
Right, no big deal.
But as we move through these documents, the narrative escalates dramatically. When the infrastructure illusion shatters out in the wild, that annoyance rapidly mutates into a geographic emergency.
Yeah, geography completely dictates your vulnerability in these situations.
Yeah.
Think about the concept of a captive environment.
Like the airport.
Yes. The sources highlight Sacramento International Airport, SMF, as a prime example of a charging desert.
Oh, picture that scenario. You've just flown back from a stressful 4-day business trip. Your flight was delayed. You've dragged your luggage through the terminal. It's raining, and you finally get out to the daily parking lot.
Exhausted, just wanting to go home.
Exactly. And you left your car with 20% battery. But because the vehicle's computer systems or thermal management or security features like Sentry Mode were running in the background while you were gone, you open the door to a completely dead screen.
You're trapped.
You just want to go home, but you are physically trapped in a concrete garage miles from a functional plug.
The airport is a geographic trap. I mean, you cannot push a heavy EV out of a parking structure to hunt for power. You are immobilized in a highly restrictive zone.
Right.
But as frustrating as that is, the sources contrast that captive annoyance with scenarios involving severe, immediate physical danger.
Yeah, like Interstate 80. They bring up running out of power on the shoulder of a major high-speed freight corridor.
That is genuinely terrifying.
The physical sensation of sitting in a completely immobilized, silent vehicle while fully loaded semi-trucks blast past you at 80 miles an hour. The aerodynamic wake literally shakes your car.
It does. And the sources classify this as a high-stress situation demanding rapid roadside rescue. Because the physics of that environment mean a catastrophic collision is statistically looming the longer you sit there.
Yeah, an inconvenience rapidly becomes a life-threatening emergency.
And that physical danger on the highway serves as a bridge to the ultimate vulnerability they describe, which is psychological, the nighttime threat.
Oh man, the scenario they paint is incredibly visceral. It's 2 in the morning, your battery hits 0%, and you roll to a stop in a dark, empty industrial park where the map promised a charger.
And of course, the charger turned out to be broken.
Exactly. The phrase they use in the text is chilling, honestly. They say, every minute you wait is a minute you're unsafe.
We have to unpack the difference between a traditional gas station and an EV charging bank here. Gas stations are usually situated on brightly lit, high-traffic corners, right?
Usually with an attendant inside a locked convenience store 24 hours a day. Yeah.
Right. They are designed for visibility and security. EV charging stations, conversely, are frequently retrofitted into the darkest, most isolated corners of empty shopping mall parking lots. Or, behind big box stores.
Yeah, at 2 in the afternoon, parking behind an abandoned department store to charge is fine. At 2 in the morning, the reality of a dead EV becomes claustrophobic.
Completely.
Your vehicle is essentially a bricked smartphone that you happen to be sitting inside. The heat stops working. The interior lights die.
And in some models, the electronic door locks can become unresponsive.
Right, or complicated to manually override. So you are sitting in the dark, in the cold, highly vulnerable to anyone who happens to walk by.
In that specific context, traditional infrastructure demanding that you travel to it is an absurd proposition. Safety dictates that the power must come to you.
It's the only logical solution.
Yeah, the service positions itself as a 24/7 lifeline to address that specific psychological and physical vulnerability. It completely redefines the modern concept of roadside assistance.
Let's follow that thought, actually, because your historical knee-jerk reflex in that terrifying 2 a.m. scenario drilled into you since the day you got your driver's license is to pull out your phone and call a standard tow truck.
Call a massive diesel flatbed to come haul your car away.
Right. But here's where it gets really interesting, because the sources argue vehemently that calling a traditional tow truck is the absolute worst thing you can possibly do to your electric vehicle.
The text is aggressively warning drivers away from legacy towing. They frame it as a dual threat. They categorize standard towing as both a predatory financial scam and a severe mechanical risk.
Let's break down that financial hostage situation first. They call it the price towing scam in the documents.
Right.
If you are stranded with a dead battery and you call a standard tow company, you are going to be charged hundreds of dollars just for the privilege of having your vehicle dragged onto a flatbed.
And the truck isn't taking you to a gas station.
No, the truck is towing you to a local dealership. And if it's the middle of the night or a Sunday, that dealership is closed, so your vehicle is dumped in a service lot.
And when they finally open, you are at the mercy of their service queue just to get your vehicle plugged into a wall.
It's just a cascading failure of time and capital. You pay an exorbitant emergency fee simply to be moved, and your reward is to be stranded at a secondary location without your car for potentially days.
It's maddening.
Hmm.
But mobile charging is framed as a fraction of this cost.
Yeah, the mobile charging model bypasses that entire hostage dynamic. They arrive, they deliver the electrons directly into your battery on the spot, and you drive yourself home.
But, the financial extortion of a late-night tow might actually be the least of your worries.
Oh, the mechanical risk.
Yeah, the documents dedicate significant space to the towing damage risk. This is where the advanced engineering of electric vehicles fundamentally, violently clashes with the brute force mechanics of the legacy towing industry.
The specific warning is that improper towing can literally fry the drivetrain of electric vehicles. They specifically name-check brands with complex drivetrains like Tesla and Rivian.
And we aren't talking about a scratch bumper or a misaligned wheel here.
We are talking about catastrophic, irreversible damage, thousands of dollars in repairs. I have to ask you to imagine the irony for a second. You try to rescue your stranded, eco-friendly car, and the rescue vehicle itself causes thousands of dollars in catastrophic damage.
It's wild.
Why is standard towing still the default if it's so incompatible with EV anatomy? Why is the anatomy of an EV structurally incompatible with being towed?
Well, it requires a quick teardown of the mechanics. So in a traditional internal combustion engine, you can put the manual or automatic transmission into neutral.
Okay.
That physically, mechanically disconnects the turning wheels from the engine block. You drag that car for 50 miles, the wheels will spin freely, and the engine remains completely static.
But electric vehicles operate on an entirely different architecture.
Right, because there is no true neutral gear in the same way. The electric motors are intrinsically physically lashed to the wheels to allow for regenerative braking.
Regenerative braking.
Precisely. Regenerative braking is designed so that when you take your foot off the accelerator, the turning wheels force the electric motor to run in reverse.
So instead of consuming electricity to create motion, the motor uses the vehicle's forward momentum to generate electricity.
Exactly, and sending it back into the battery.
Which is brilliant engineering when the car is awake and driving.
Right.
But let's apply that to the 2 a.m. tow truck scenario. The EV is completely dead, its computer systems are asleep, the thermal management pumps that, circulate coolant, they're offline.
Nothing is running to protect the system.
And then the tow truck driver hooks up the front of the car, lifts it, and starts dragging it down the highway with the rear wheels still on the pavement.
So those rear wheels are spinning at 40 or 50 miles an hour. And they are forcibly turning the permanent magnets inside the electric motors. The motors are doing exactly what they are designed to do. They are generating massive amounts of alternating current power. But because the car's computers are dead, that power has nowhere safe to go.
It's pumping raw, unregulated electricity directly into the sleeping inverter.
Yeah. The inverter, which normally acts as the sophisticated brain managing the flow of direct current from the battery to alternating current for the motor, it's suddenly flooded with high voltage energy from the wrong direction.
And it can't handle it.
Right, with no software to manage it and no liquid coolant flowing to dissipate the heat, the internal components rapidly overheat. The wiring melts. The inverter literally cooks itself from the inside out.
The bitter irony of that is just astounding. You do the environmentally conscious thing, you buy a highly advanced electric vehicle, you experience a moment of infrastructure failure and run out of juice. You call for a rescue.
And the very act of the legacy tow truck trying to rescue your car destroys the most expensive components of your machinery.
It's a structural absurdity. Why hasn't the towing industry adapted to this?
It comes down to cost and logistics. Upgrading an entire national fleet of legacy diesel tow trucks to specialized flatbeds,
Mm.
and then training every single driver on the highly nuanced proprietary towing protocols of 50 different EV models.
Like where to attach the hooks or how to manually unlock the electronic parking brakes.
Exactly. It requires massive amounts of capital and time. The towing industry is built on speed and volume, right? Hooking a car and clearing a lane as fast as possible. The delicate computer-driven nature of an EV disrupts their entire operational model.
And this is the exact mechanical blind spot the source materials are exploiting. The specialized mobile units detailed in these documents provide a localized, damage-free power boost.
Because the wheels of your EV never leave the pavement.
Right. You don't physically move the 2-ton computer until it has the internal power to safely move itself.
It is an elegant, functional workaround to a massive industrial lag.
Now, avoiding a melted inverter is obviously the primary concern for a daily commuter, but the sources actually shift gears toward the end of the text.
They do, yeah.
They move away from emergency rescues and start looking at the daily economics of driving. Because for some drivers, a dead battery isn't just a breakdown. It's an immediate loss of livelihood.
Yeah, if we connect this to the bigger picture, we're looking at the rapid integration of EVs into the commercial sector. The source material features an entire section dedicated to fleet and commercial uptime.
And another specifically targeting gig economy workers, right? Like Uber and Lyft drivers navigating the Sacramento Valley.
Exactly. The calculus of the big economy is brutal. The core philosophy driving this demographic is laid out perfectly in the text. They say uptime is everything, and if you're not driving, you're losing money.
Because in commercial logistics, time literally dictates survival. A stranded delivery vehicle means a missed deadline.
Right. The entire business model of driving an EV professionally hinges on the absolute reliability of your charging schedule. For a commercial delivery business, a stranded electric cargo van isn't just dealing with a dead battery, it represents a broken contract.
Yeah, it's a furious client and compromised inventory. And think about the Uber driver who leases a Tesla to save on gas.
Oh, that's a perfect example.
It's 9 o'clock on a Friday night, right? Prime surge pricing. The driver realizes they are down to 10% battery. They cannot accept a lucrative airport run.
They have to decline it.
Yeah, they have to turn off the app, actively losing money by the minute, and hunt for an open supercharger. And as we established earlier, they might arrive to find a broken screen or a massive line.
So they're sitting in a parking lot, entirely unproductive, just watching their peak earning hours vanish.
Exactly. But the mobile charging model intercepts that workflow and optimizes it. They actually act as a secret weapon for these professional drivers.
Yeah, the text uses a fascinating phrase. They say, "We come to you while you take a break." This acknowledges that professional drivers are legally mandated and physically required to take downtime.
Right, so instead of hunting for superchargers or waiting at slow public plugs, the mobile charger comes to them while they take a break, offering maximum uptime and minimum cost.
If a gig worker can align their mandatory 30-minute lunch break with a mobile charging service arriving to concurrently inject electrons into their vehicle, the inefficiency of the public grid is erased.
They achieve maximum uptime.
Right. They aren't altering their route to find a gas station. The gas station is hunting them down while they eat. It acknowledges that the stationary charging network, in its current chaotic state, is simply too unpredictable for businesses that require absolute to-the-minute reliability.
Because when your rent depends on those wheels turning, you cannot subject your income to the lottery of public infrastructure.
Absolutely not.
So, what does this all mean? We started this deep dive looking at what appeared to be straightforward promotional materials for a localized mobile charging service.
Right, just a Sacramento business.
But by analyzing the specific problems they're solving, we've traced a fascinating journey through the very real growing pains of a massive technological revolution. We've seen how the glaring gaps in the stationary charging grid, the broken plugs, the software glitches, the combustion engine vehicles blocking the spots create the absolute necessity for a 24/7 mobile lifeline.
And we've explored how geography dictates vulnerability, transforming a dead battery from a minor annoyance at the airport into a severe physical hazard on the interstate, or a terrifying psychological threat in a dark parking lot at 2 in the morning.
Yeah. We also dismantled the mechanics of the towing trap.
That was wild.
We revealed how the legacy infrastructure of roadside rescue is fundamentally incompatible with modern regenerative drivetrains, how traditional towing is physically dangerous to EVs, turning a simple tow into a catastrophic financial and mechanical disaster.
And finally, we saw how commercial uptime is forcing a radical logistical shift. where the power must hunt down the driver rather than the driver hunting for the power. Because uptime is the new currency for fleet drivers.
The pristine, frictionless image of the electric vehicle future sold in the dealership is currently colliding with the messy, unpredictable reality of our physical world.
Yeah, and understanding the tension in these sources is vital for you, the listener, because it forces a complete rethink of what roadside assistance means in the 21st century.
It really does. Which leads to a final, somewhat provocative thought to leave you with, building directly on what we've discussed today.
I'm curious.
If mobile EV charging on demand becomes the new standard for roadside rescues because it's safer, faster, and physically protects the vehicle's intricate computer systems, are we looking at the eventual extinction of the traditional flatbed tow truck?
Oh, right.
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 Like decades from now, will the highways of the future be patrolled not by massive diesel tow trucks looking to haul away broken cars, but by massive roaming power banks looking to heal them right on the spot?
It completely changes how we visualize the safety net of the open road.
It really does. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. Next time you see a sleek EV glide silently past you, remember that the reality powering it is a lot more complex, a lot more vulnerable, and incredibly fascinating. Keep asking questions, and we'll see you next time.